The media tends to love Joe Biden's press secretary, Jen Psaki. The back and forth between her and Peter Doocy tend to get CNN and MSNBC hearts aflutter. And look, even I, enjoy those once in a while. However, sometimes, and it happens very rarely, but sometimes, these Psaki bombs dropped during daily White House briefings go off in her face. One such example did not involve Peter Doocy, but actually did involve an NPR reporter, Mara Liasson, who asked a simple but really good question. Take a look.
Look at what we've done over the course of time. We've quadrupled the size of our testing plan. We've cut the cost significantly over the past few months. And this effort to ensure insurers you're able to get your tests refunded means 150 million Americans will be able to get free tests.
Complicated though. Why not just make them free and give them out and have them available everywhere?
Should we just send one to every American?
Maybe.
Then what happens if every American has one test? How much does that cost, and then what happens after that?
All I know is that other countries seem to be making them available in greater quantities for less money.
Well, I think we share the same objective, which is to make them less expensive and more accessible, right? Every country's going to do that differently.
Wow. I mean, what do you just want to give them free? What? We should. I mean, again, excellent question from Liasson. This was terrible optics. What an awful answer from Jen Psaki. Wow. Yes, we should give everyone free tests. That is what a civilized country does. Look, we are still dealing with COVID-19. We have cases of Omicron, the variant, that are in Florida. I'm sorry, not in Florida, in California. Probably going to make its way to Florida pretty soon. This is, more infectious than Delta variant, according to early studies. And by the way, there are people still in this country who are unvaccinated. And so there is a problem. And by the way, even if you're vaccinated, you can still get it. You still have a chance of spreading it. And therefore, this is why tests are really, really important. You don't always know if you've got a cold or flu or if it's COVID. That's why, hey, we should all have rapid tests. We should all have the tests available to take at home. So now, here's the hypocrisy part of this, okay? So if Sarah Huckabee Sanders, imagine Trump were still president, Sarah Huckabee Sanders was like, oh, well, what do you want us to do? Just give out free tests? Every establishment journalist would be like, oh my God, how could she say something like that? We're in the middle of COVID. And they would be correct. Look, a flippant answer like that, with the derision in her voice, there's absolutely no place for this. Again, it's one thing to push back aggressively against Fox News' stupid questions. Jen Psaki's really good at that. But this is a legitimate question that was given a sarcastic answer. Other countries do this better. That is a fact. And so the problem here, though, isn't just Psaki's answer. It's actually more indicative of the government's response to the COVID-19. And so, I mean, look, the Biden administration, they're basically saying about a lot of different priorities, and not just testing, but, things like paid leave, for example, or expanding Medicare. It just costs too much. We can't do it. It costs too much. Says the government, the same government, who I believe it was yesterday, just passed a $768 billion war budget. I mean, more expensive than getting people tests, more expensive than Build Back Better would be for an entire year. And they're like, oh, no problem. $768 billion immediately. Yes, military. Yes, Pentagon. Anything you want, Pentagon. Yes, of course. We will give you even $28 billion more than the president had even asked for. And by the way, that is hundreds of billions of dollars too much. And this is the thing too. We're in less wars than we were during the Trump administration. We left Afghanistan. Why do we need even more money in the war budget? That Total insanity. Nobody ever talks about the fiscal irresponsibility of handing over hundreds of billions of dollars every year to the goddamn Pentagon for no reason. No. And so understand, this is not the cost, right? The cost is not the real problem for the government, okay? What it is that it's big pharma profits. If it wanted, the government could use its power of negotiations to get the tests cheaply and hand them out to every single American. They can afford to do that. Yes, that is a thing. And again, that's not just a thing. That is a literal role of the government during the pandemic. That is part of the job they are supposed to do to protect the American public in a public health crisis. But they don't. Instead, what they're doing is, again, they're not using their power to negotiate prices. What they're doing, actually, what the administration and Psaki was talking about was, oh, now we've authorized a plan to allow certain people with insurance to get a rebate, basically. So instead of you paying, I mean, you're going to first pay out of pocket, but then to your insurance company, but then we're going to reimburse the insurance companies for what you paid, so the insurance companies will get their cut, and then Big Pharma will get their cut, and then, of course, at least you won't have to pay anything, but everyone else is going to get paid. And by the way, you are going to pay it through your taxes. And so that's a lot of corporate welfare going on here. And they want it to be this way so that their friends in Big Pharma and in the insurance companies can make bigger and bigger profits. It is absolutely gross. And so, look, I'm not making this case like, oh, we shouldn't trust anything the pharmaceutical companies come up with, like vaccines or anything. No, I'm pro-vaccine, I'm pro-science, but I'm anti-Big Pharma simply because their business model is about greed. And that's it. I despise Big Pharma. I despise their business model. I think they should be nationalized 100%. Most of the vast majority of research and development is publicly funded anyway, in which these not insurance companies, but these pharmaceutical companies then come in, take the fruits of that publicly funded research, and then basically act as the middleman and say, okay, we're going to take that, we're going to patent that, and then we're going to basically upcharge it and sell it to you. Incredible. And by the way, also sell it to the government at high prices, which they are not allowed to negotiate with Medicare, which is the main driver of why prices are so high, the fact that there is no negotiation, no power to be able to set the prices, and they can get off with, basically robbing the American people. That's the real problem here. That is the problem with Big Pharma, not the stuff that they actually create, which generally, again, in the case of the COVID vaccine, safe and effective. It's the business model, and that business model is nothing but greed. Nothing but greed. And so, look, her flippant and dismissive attitude, going back to Psaki, is and basically toward the question of, should the government actually do its job as a member of the government, is gross, and it's neoliberalism 101. But again, it's not just testing, it's insurance, right? There was no bill to put forward Joe Biden's public option, which during a pandemic would have been the right time to put it forward. What did the Democrats do? They did nothing. Biden did not pressure them to do it. In fact, of course, look, as soon as Joe Biden won the election, he stopped running in the public option, stopped talking about it. I'm not talking about it now. They never meant to do it. He hasn't said a peep about this since his campaign ended, despite the fact that the public option is actually incredibly popular among both Democrats and Republicans, and Medicare for All is even more popular among Democrats. So what that says to me is that they never wanted it in the first place. Why? Because it's always been a foil to Medicare for All. He just wanted to shut down Bernie Sanders while making sure to placate his friends in the insurance and pharmaceutical industries. Disaster. Disaster. So now, the reaction to Psaki from public health experts and journalists was swift, and let me give you that. Here's the Boston Globe's Matt Karolian saying this, quote, Jen Psaki somewhat mockingly asked a reporter at White House Daily Press Briefing if the U.S. should be sending out rapid COVID-19 tests to every household. The U.K. can order one pack containing 7 tests every day. New Hampshire, he added, offered free at-home rapid tests to all residents and ran out within a day. It does seem as though there is sufficient demand for free at-home rapid tests. Jeremy Faust, MD, who is an ER physician, said this. Last week, I said the U.S. government should mail free rapid tests out. Apparently, press secretary disagrees, and this is literally the worst minute at the White House podium she has ever had, and I couldn't agree more. He added, let's go back to the drawing board. Tatiana Powell, MD, said this. Med Twitter, myself included, had no shortage of feelings about that response. We're approaching the 2-year mark in this pandemic. Home rapid tests should be everywhere and free. And if we run out when we send one to every home, we're doing something very wrong. 100%. Yale Associate Professor of Research and Epidemiology for Infectious Disease, Greg Gonzalez, says this, at Press Secretary, the answer was terrible, flippant, wrong. Rapid tests are hard to get, expensive, and could be a key intervention in fighting COVID-19. Other countries have figured out better ways to get these tools into the hands of their citizens. Do better. True. Craig Spencer, MD, added, many are ridiculing this dismissive and out-of-touch take by press secretary on COVID tests, but for me, it's the how much does it cost part. We spent billions and billions on vaccines that we would have never considered charging for. Tests could be, different. Howard Foreman added, generally think press secretary does a good job. Not here. She should apologize for her tone. She should be better prepared for answering this question. We can and should be able to meet the challenge as our peer OECD nations do. Rapid testing in USA is a failure. Fix it. Fix it. And then finally, Emily Smith, who was an assistant professor at GW Public Health, epidemiologist, added, Psaki scoffs when asked about free tests is a hallmark of strategies everywhere. A hallmark of strategies everywhere. She lauded strict FDA review, which many note is a problem. We lack plans for equitable vaccine delivery locally and globally. We need better masks and better mask policies. The Biden administration seems clueless. 100% agree. Now, understand that these people are not right-wingers. These are medical professionals in the field who are fighting against COVID-19. These people are frustrated, understandably, at the lackluster response from this administration. And again, I'm sorry, because I know immediately some of you are going to be like, well, Trump's was worse and it would have been worse. Okay, and that's not an excuse for the failures of this current administration who have been in power for the last year. Yeah, I'm sorry, but you can't sit there and blame the last administration for every single thing that is going wrong that the current administration actually does have control over. Yes, Trump made a lot of massive missteps in the pandemic response, and he did set up the Biden administration to be behind. The Biden administration has had a year to go and fix that and to work on these things. Did he do so? Not necessarily. Again, Democrats control 2/3 of government. 2/3 of government. And what have they been able to do? Not a whole lot. Yet you had a COVID relief bill that gave billions of dollars in corporate welfare, and regular people got a $1,400 check and some unemployment benefits. All right. Now, the thing is, it's actually less in unemployment benefits and in COVID relief than Republicans under Trump had given, because they understood, hey, if we don't do something, our beloved stock market is going to crash, and then we're going to lose the election. And now, of course, Trump's dumbass still lost the election because, and once again, COVID, and the terrible response. But here's the thing. Again, for Biden, he had a bipartisan corporate infrastructure bill. What does that do? That privatized roads and bridges, as well as a smattering of other different things, and it was massively watered down. This is something that Joe Manchin, corporations couldn't wait to do. This didn't have anything for regular people, okay? And again, even the benefits, and there will be benefits to rebuilding our infrastructure, obviously, but those are not going to be immediate, okay? Those are not going to be immediate. Not going to make people feel like their lives have been improved in any material way. And I'm not saying that there isn't good things the Biden administration has done either. When you're talking about the child tax credits, well, I read an article today. Child tax credits have been hitting people's banks, but only 59% of those who are eligible are actually receiving these. And so those tax credits, and by the way, of those who have received them, a lot of them say, yeah, it's helped a little bit. Just a little bit. Okay, well, that means maybe the tax credit should be, I don't know, a little bit larger and help. And again, the stuff that was originally in Build Back Better, before it was stripped out by corporate Democrats like Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, John Tester, and the rest of the corporate wing of the party, would have helped so many people. What's left is barely a shell of itself. And even that is not going to pass. So this is nothing there that you can really point at that the Biden administration has done, or very few things that they have done that will actually materially benefit the average American, working class family's life. And so that's a problem. And again, there are some issues that Biden could have done something on, rescheduling marijuana, doing student loan cancellation. That's things he could absolutely do, and he should do if he wants to have any chance in the midterms for the Democratic Party. But there's just things that are out of his control that he's being blamed for, like gas prices. President doesn't control gas, and not only that, but you have the supply chain issue. That's also not his fault. And so, I mean, if you want to get ahead of the message and you want to do something, well, then do something. Have the government do its job. And this is something, giving out rapid tests to every American, that's at least something. That's at least something. We're not asking for much, guys. We're just asking for the government to do its job. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.